Hey, it's Brock here from Rock Hill Farms, and today I want to talk about why everything is so darn expensive, and I want to tie that into why so few products are now being made in the USA. And a lot of the conversation stems from this product I showed yesterday and the pushback towards the price of this product. It's hard to have this conversation without getting political. You're going to have the right side political point of view that our problem is taxation and regulation, and the left side political point of view that the problem is corporate greed. And I can't have this conversation without touching on my thoughts on those a little bit, but it's not what I want to focus on. What I want to focus on is my real world experience coming up with a product, designing it, figuring out how to build it, building it myself, selling it, building up a company where I had 6 employees building that product, and we did as much as $1 million of sales in a year out of my basement and then out of this little shop behind my house. And then me going out of business and deciding to close that down while we were still selling product like crazy. And the answer is the reason that this costs so much. And the reason I'm out here making this video at whatever time it is, let me see what time it is. It is 11:45 p.m. is I got a comment 5 minutes ago that said this product has $25 of materials. It shouldn't cost $400, but it does cost $400. And I get sticker shock myself every time I see something like this. I was trying to guess what this would cost. I was thinking $275. Well, it's $430, and the competitors cost the same amount or a little bit more. They all cost that much. And the question is, why? Why does it cost so much? And tonight I want to try to give some insight on the answers to those questions based on my personal experience and my observation. This is especially relevant to the U.S. audience where we are all dealing with the same environment. Let me start by telling the story of my business, which I've told before, but I'm going to tell it in a different way. So I wanted a portable pitching mound for my son's 9-year-old baseball team to use to improve their pitching. So I went online, I did what everyone does, started looking for what's out there. What can I buy? There were no options like what I wanted for sale. There were a few people who built a simple wooden box, and then there were a few people who had 2 wooden boxes that had a hinge on them. And I thought, man, that's still pretty bulky. What if you did 3 wooden boxes with hinges and wheels and a convenient handle to roll it around? And nobody was making that. There was no examples of that anywhere. And I said, all right, I'm going to make one. And I made it, and I was really proud of it, and I showed it off on the internet. And literally 100 people in a Facebook group said they wanted to buy one. So that weekend, I built 5 more and sold them to people on the other side of the country, and immediately started having problems because it was not an easy thing to ship. And there was a big learning curve, and there was all kinds of things that go into it. And I'm not going to go details into every problem, but what I can tell you is that it was no small thing for an average guy to figure out how to make something like that and ship it. And a product like this, while simple, there's a lot of engineering that goes into it, and a lot of design, and a lot of problems, and a lot of cost that you would never think of. So I was selling wooden boxes. It doesn't get any more simple. We built the entire thing out of plywood, and we covered it with carpet that we bought at Lowe's. The first one I built cost me about $140 to build it. And I started looking, well, what if I bought things in bulk? What if I did this to reduce cost? And what if we found a way to have less waste? And what could I make one of these for? And I figured up I could do it for like $100. And you know what I thought? Well, it should cost about $150 to buy one. So I was going to sell these for $50 profit. Sounds pretty good, right? And if you're my neighbor and you live across the street and you want to buy one, and I can make it in a day by myself, $50 profit for that day. It's fine. It's not, you're not going to get rich, right? But you can build one and you can sell it. But what happens when you try to sell to someone who isn't your neighbor? And what happens when you create a business entity? And what happens when you take on employees? It gets complicated quickly. And shipping. So my product was 3 foot wide and 3 foot tall and 2 foot thick. Huge. The average. I had five or six sizes by the end and some different features and different options, but the main size, it weighed over 100 pounds. You wouldn't believe how often it got lost or completely destroyed. And every time that happened, I had to eat that cost because it turned out that shipping insurance for a business like mine was a complete waste of time. So there's one thing. Every time there's a product that seems to be impossible to lose, gets lost, then that cost has to be spread to all the other customers. And that's just one small example. But what really was the hardest thing for me to grasp was the cost for taxes and taxes and taxes and taxes and insurance and insurance and insurance, layers upon layers upon layers of taxes and insurance that I became responsible for as soon as I grew the business enough to have employees. But let's go back one step because I think this is really relevant. So I was poor. I had 5 kids. I'm doing menial labor jobs in a factory, making $15 to $17 an hour, running equipment in a factory. And we're just getting by, just barely. We have an acceptable house, but there's no extra money for anything. So I built the first one for $100. And that was okay. It's for our kids' sports. We accepted that we were going to spend this $100 and some on materials. But then I had people who wanted to buy more, and each one cost $100. I didn't have $100 and so many dollars per product to build more of them. And I didn't want to accept the money before I built them and then took them somewhere and got them all the details on what it was going to cost to ship. So it was a big struggle to just set aside the money to build the next ones. And when you look at a product like that little bowl that I just recently showed, it's a husband and wife working regular jobs trying to launch a product. There are so many hats you have to wear when you launch a product. Your marketing, your customer service, you're the packaging department. You're answering phone calls and messages all day, every day, while still working another job. And that's what I did. I was working 60 to 70 hours a week. I was working 2 jobs, and I quit one job, and I was going to night school. I was actually going to try to become a physical therapist. I was going to night school and working 60 hours a week. I had to drop out of school to make this product because I decided that it was a real opportunity that could justify that. And so I gave up on a career path I'd chosen so that I could pursue this venture of building this product and selling it because I felt like there was this big demand for the product. And there really, really was, is what I found out over time. But that was, all of these are small struggles that I'm going through as an individual for what? I started off saying that my intuition was I should only charge $50 more than it cost me to make it. Well, that doesn't make any sense. You can't get by like that. And I talk to small business owners every day, and I ask them, about what their experience is like. And a lot of them go through the same things I did. So, sorry this is a long story, but I want people to understand what it means to have a small business in the United States. So, I was working 60 hours a week, and then I would get off work, I would come home and make dinner, then I'd go out into my carport, and in an open air carport, I would build these pitching mounds for the next 4 or 5 hours. every night for a year. I built the first few hundred of them. I don't remember how many. I think we did 500 the first year. So I was building them 7 days a week after work in my carport and shipping them. And I built the website, which I didn't know how to do. And I had to go through all this process to turn it into a business. It got to the point where I had this waiting list of like 50 people who had ordered a product, and I couldn't build them fast enough. I said, I'm going to have to either go full time and quit my job or take on an employee. Well, at the time, I was building about 20 of these a week because I had to go get the materials. I had to do there was so much that went into it. I was doing about 20 a week. And I did the math. I said I'd have to do about 40 or 50 a week to justify quitting my job. And I'm only doing 20 a week. I can't keep up while we grow from 20 to 50. What do? So I just quit my job with 5 kids to make these products. I mean, think about what that's like to take a risk like that. And some people come up with something like this, a widget like this, and they borrow $50,000 and they quit their jobs and they take out a mortgage on their house to try to have a dream of selling a product like this. And there was a few reasons I ended up going out of business that I'll get to. I'm still not there yet. But one of those is that never, the entire time I was in business, was I willing to charge what the product was worth. And people who watch this channel know that today I sell firewood cheaper than anybody else sells firewood, to the point I'm not making much money. I do tractor work too cheap. I have a hard time charging people what something's worth or what you have to charge. You have to charge a large upcharge on your cost to cover your time and your risk and everything else involved, or you will fail. And I struggled to learn that lesson, and I continued to undercharge for my products most of the time I was in business. So what did I do? I quit my job while selling half of what I had to sell to make enough money to pay for our mortgage and our electric bill. It caused us a major problem in my household doing this because it was not a reasonable decision. But I had a belief and I went with it. And I want to make a point now about that I'll reference in a minute. But the fact that I risked everything in my life to launch that business means there has to be a little bit of a pot of gold at the end. Say I risked everything and I fought and I struggled for a decade. The result has to be better than just getting by. Or why would you do it? So if you resent the person who started the business for now being financially very successful, then you're missing the point of why would they do it if there wasn't a bigger reward? So that's how I became a full-time business. We're going to skip a lot. 5 years later, I've got 6 employees and I'm on this property. And now I went into business without knowing how to be in business. I hire people, and now I didn't understand the layers of taxes there are. You have to pay all these extra taxes for having employees. Like you have to match some of the taxes they pay, and you have to pay state payroll taxes and federal payroll taxes and all this stuff. And then you've got sales tax, and how does one guy do all that? Well, you have to hire someone to do your financials. Where does the money come from to hire someone to do your financials? It goes into the product. Where does the marketing come in? It goes into the price of the product. Where does everything come in? It goes into the price of the product every single time. The next thing after taxes was insurance. Well, if I have employees building something, they're using tools. Someone could get injured. Do you know what it costs to have workman's compensation insurance and insurance on a now commercial building that's being used for manufacturing and has all these tools in it? And then one of the ones that really got me was I was selling my products on Amazon, and Amazon sent me a notice that said if I didn't have liability insurance, I could no longer sell there. And I said, I can't lose Amazon as a sales channel. Even though Amazon is devastating me with fees, they're hitting me with selling a $300 product, they're getting a $50 commission off of me selling that product. And I have to do free shipping. But they're a volume seller, and I made the decision to continue selling through Amazon. Amazon sent me a notice that I had to have liability insurance, not towards anything happening here, but if someone was using my product, and they twist an ankle and want to sue me. I said, okay, sure. What's one more insurance policy stacked on 20 other insurance policies? So I go to get this policy, and I called a bunch of places. I went through all these hoops. And keep in mind, I'm not selling tractors. I'm selling wooden boxes. They are just wooden boxes that you stand on and throw a ball. My 1 year prepaid upfront liability insurance for not getting sued over that was like $9,000. I didn't have it. Like, we're just getting by. I didn't even have the money, and I had to borrow money to buy an insurance policy because Amazon said so. But also, it was just a matter of time before you have to do all this to become a legitimate business. And you have to stack cost on top of cost on top of cost. And then I'd get comfortable with the pricing model, and then I'd audit my shipping and realize that the shipping rates kept going up even though I was negotiating that with the shippers. And the only solution that would have made that business still work is to charge a lot. And I built my business on the fact that I was able to offer a simple, affordable product that anybody could afford. And I'm no longer in business. And part of that was a choice that I'm now doing something I like better, that doesn't have all that stress. But it's all part of me wanting to sell a product for $150, and a couple years later, that same mid-sized product was $350 when I could originally build it for $100. Anybody could go out to the hardware store, buy the materials, and build that for $100. I was selling it for $350. And that money was going to taxes and insurance and things like that, and obviously payroll, but it all gets spread far and wide. So when this product is $430 with free shipping, they're still paying to ship this. So there is no free shipping. So that's just factored into the cost. They're simplifying the buying process so you don't have to do the math to add up what the shipping is. And it's a marketing thing that is proven that people will pay more total money if you give them free shipping. It's just a fact. Amazon requires it. I had to do it even though I didn't want to. I've talked about all these types of taxes and insurance. The next thing is, with all of that, at no point did I personally have health insurance, or life insurance, or dental insurance, or vision insurance, or a 401k, or any type of retirement plan. I'm just hanging in the wind. And I could buy all those products, and now I've bought some of those products and done some of those things, but as a business owner and an overweight, middle-aged man, where does my health insurance come from if I have a heart attack? It goes into the price of this product. And why is healthcare so expensive? Because you can sue me for falling off a wooden box, and you can sue the doctor, and you can sue everybody. Taxes and insurance. If you want to know why this costs so much, it's taxes and insurance. And I don't believe that it's mostly greed. I also believe that there are some companies out there that are doing a $50 billion, the giant mega companies, they made $50 billion in profit this year, and they could have made $30 billion, done all right on $30 billion, and lowered their prices a little bit. I believe two things can be true at once. But when we're talking about this is made by Phil at Small Farm Innovations. He's just one guy who had a regular job and decided he wanted to do something bigger and took a massive risk and worked 7 days a week, 16-hour days for 20 years to build up a business that can now offer this product for sale. And if he can't make good money on this to buy himself health insurance, then why would he do it? Why would this product exist? China could stamp these out quicker, and I think it's because they don't have the type of regulations that we do. And somehow they're winning the money game. So that was a long-winded story, I know. But, you know, it's something I feel strongly about. I know I've been through it. I know what it's like. And I know other people are struggling with it. And just bear it in mind when you think about the cost of something. What it took to get that product. And if someone else is a better businessman and can make this and be profitable for $300, he should win. But a lot of times the guy who makes this for $300 either doesn't do the proper engineering to make sure that it's safe and well built and pay for testing on the torque limitations and all of that type of thing, and hasn't gone through all the steps and hasn't powder coated it or whatever the premium features are on this, or that person probably goes out of business in 5 years. Those are the two most likely things. It's unfortunate, but it's true. So I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.